Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tide Talks with myself, Emily, and Tommy. So today we've got quite a variety of different topics to talk about.
Yes, and a new look, say studio, it's not, it's just that we've cleaned the desk and turned it into our podcast environment today. But we've got a TV screen, we've got a computer screen with logos on.
We've upgraded.
So we have upgraded, not to say that it'll always be like this, but today it is. So what are we talking about today?
So today we will be talking about some updates on Threads. We spoke about it in the last video, and I want to kind of see how we're both using it, whether we are, whether we aren't. There's also a new algorithm coming into place with TikTok for use in the EU, so I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of dive into that. Then we're going to talk about the rise of podcasts, which obviously we're doing right now. And then finally we'll be talking about kind of launching new products and services and kind of the best ways to do that.
Cool, lots to get through.
Yes. So let's get started. Threads. So, are you still using it?
Do you know what? No, not really.
I'm the exact same. I think when it first came out, loved it. I was like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm going to transition, use this all the time. But literally after a few weeks, I've just stopped. I'll occasionally check the app, but yeah, I find the engagement's not as great. But obviously, it's a new app, you know. There's a lot of potential for it, and I think, you know, it's still worth kind of exploring. You know, it's still working for a lot of businesses,
Yeah.
you know. So I think it's just kind of exploring kind of what strategies can be put in place for it to actually work for business owners.
What advice would you give to someone who's running a business that could get Threads working for them?
So I think the most important thing is to firstly get on there, get involved, have a look at kind of what people are doing, because everyone's taken it very differently. You know, some businesses are using it for a more personal approach, others are still using it kind of similar to how they'd use their Instagram or their Facebook, kind of doing promotion. So kind of see what's happening, what your competitors are doing. That's also really important. Doesn't mean to copy them, but it means you can kind of see how they're treating it and how you can maybe apply some of those techniques to your own strategy.
Yeah.
And kind of you can almost use it in a similar way to how you use Twitter, now known as X, because it's got a character limit. They're obviously very similar layouts, so you can kind of adopt what you're doing on Twitter and kind of put that onto the platform and kind of see if that works for you.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I found has worked well on Threads is, weirdly, not making content, but commenting. I get I get way more interaction. I get a lot. People liking or hearting comments that I've made and following me after they've liked that comment.
Interesting.
For example, a comedian had done a Threads post that was using cheese as like a joke, and I was reading the comments, and I am quite privy to a pun, and people were sort of made cheese related puns, so I couldn't help myself, and I've gone, nobody gives a damn. Like
Love
you
it.
damn cheese, right? Shouldn't have to explain your jokes. And yeah, I had a sort of flurry of followers from that. I expect they thought they were going to get more cheese related jokes, but they're not, unfortunately. So they might unfollow me eventually, but good for businesses to understand. If you can go in and comment on things that are topical to your industry, then you might gain attention that way, as opposed to putting all the pressure on posting your own content.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important, and I think it applies to all social channels. I think as long as you keep the engagement up by actually commenting, liking posts, engaging with your followers, then it will kind of reward you, and people will then start to notice your brand a lot more. So I think that's a really key point.
On Threads, I think maybe we're too many people applying the Instagram mindset of, oh, what content should I put on here?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just about getting involved in the conversation.
Right, let's move on to TikTok. So, I recently saw a post which stated that TikTok will allow EU users to turn off the recommendation algorithm. So this means that any posts that you usually see on your For You page and live feeds will now show you the most popular content rather than the typical content you see based on kind of your likes and your interests, which is very, very interesting, and I kind of don't know how businesses are going to take that, but for me, probably not in a positive light.
Yeah. Like the same thing happens with every social media platform eventually. Mm-hmm. You get to the point of saturation where the platform becomes at risk. So they have no choice but to change the algorithm to keep people on there. And why risk putting content in front of someone that isn't popular popular content is more likely going to keep people there. That's the reason why it's popular. So I get it, and we can't complain about it. This is the thing. People used to get on their high horse, right, when Facebook introduced their ad platform. And I know, and I can remember people saying, I'm not going to do this now because Facebook is making me pay to have my content seen by people. I'm sorry, that is a sense of entitlement that you think your content is always going to be seen by people. Like you said before, it's free. So how can you be upset if your free platform is no longer showing your content and it's only showing popular stuff? So I don't think people can get funny about it. I think it, like all things, you be a victim or you can be a victor. And I think how to become a victor now would be to change your content strategy. What recommendations would you give?
So I'd say obviously keep following trends, because that's always going to be something that will naturally work, but develop it more to kind of the product or the service that you are trying to promote, and always consider your audience. That's the key thing. You know, there's no point following a trend if your audience aren't going to care about it. So that would be my kind of key tip. But also look at like the times to post, because that could be so specific depending on the channel you're posting from. You know, you may post a TikTok video at a certain time, does really well. You post it on a reel on Instagram, absolutely flops. So I think you really need to kind of look into your analytics and understand kind of what is working best for you on each platform, because then the algorithm, yes, it will affect it slightly, but you're still posting at the best time you know when to post. So I think they're kind of key things to kind of consider when algorithms do change on different social platforms. Yeah,
it's interesting because I hear a lot about TikTok challenging YouTube, which is not the obvious narrative. The obvious narrative is that YouTube is challenging TikTok with YouTube Shorts. But actually, I heard that TikTok was starting to favour the how-to content in the way that someone would approach YouTube as a search engine. Second biggest search engine in the world, by the way, YouTube. First one's Google. And people go to TikTok to figure out how to do something. How to do that. How to do this. And the content that's being presented will then be the most popular content, because why would you put a video in front of someone that's asking a how-to question that gets it wrong? So people vote with their eyes and their thumbs. The most popular content is going to be the one that actually solves the problem. So for brands and individuals that run businesses watching this, maybe there's a strategy there to film a series of how-to videos based around your most common problems that you solve. Good quality content, as in visually, good camera settings, all that, and put that into TikTok as a play to try and maintain that market position. Just a thought, who knows? I think that's where it will go. There you go, I've said it. I think that's where it will go.
I think that's a really good point.
I think it's challenging YouTube.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think
you'll see it on your TV soon, if it's not already there. As an app.
No, very true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how TikTok develops.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like super ultra long versions of TikTok as well. Yeah,
I think that could definitely be coming. Cool.
Episodes there will be.
So speaking of kind of episodes, we'll now go on to
Look at that.
podcast.
That was nice.
I know.
Colour, such a nice colour.
So I feel like podcasts have just gone through the roof recently, and every time I even open TikTok or Reels, they're there. I mean, we're doing one right now, you know. A lot of companies are kind of jumping on this trend. So can you tell me some kind of positive reasons as to why business owners should be jumping on this and doing their own podcasts?
Yeah. The boat hasn't sailed yet. That's the thing. You might think there's so many, why should I bother? I think people look at it wrong. I think by the way, talking to my biggest regret in content creation, actually two regrets. I used to film a lot of like stunt videos when I was a teenager. I wish I still had them, because I wish I'd have found YouTube in the day, because I would have put them on there, and who knows. But the second and probably more appropriate regret is I had a podcast in 2013.
Wow.
And trust me, it was hard to get an episode published on iTunes. You had to jump through so many hoops. And I had 4 episodes that it took me ages to do. It's so easy now to put something out there on iTunes, or the Apple podcast platform, on Spotify, Amazon as well. It's so easy, it really is. Yet the boat has not sailed, so the opportunity is still very much there. And here's why. It positions you as somebody of authority and with expertise. Subconsciously, you're still an expert, right? Because this is, a lot of us have grown up watching this sort of setting on TV, on our computers, on our phones. So having this set up in your company and somewhere in the office where you can film content is a great move, because it positions you already as someone who is an expert in what you're doing. But secondly, this content can be enjoyed through audio, which means that the person can be doing something else. They can be driving, they can be doing the housework, they can be doing anything, and they can be in the gym, and they're able to listen and engage in your content. It doesn't require them to stay still and watch. Yeah, and they can use their phone for other things, and it's still going on. They can be listening to it, doing the housework, jump in their car, it just carries on from where it left off. And the reason I think people are looking at it wrong is because they're looking at the chart and they're thinking, oh, I'm never going to be as popular as Joe Rogan. Of course you're not. But you don't need to be.
No.
All you need to look at your podcast as a tool of attracting more of the market.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're selling, if you're selling desks, right? You don't need to be the Joe Rogan of the world, but you could be the Joe Rogan of the desk industry. So you could interview other people, you could have different products, you could do product reveals and insights and stuff like that. Or you could just talk about the products you've got in stock and the reasons why they're a good option for your customers to buy. If you have one listener, and that one listener is looking to buy a desk, are you or are you not in a better position because of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way I think people need to look at it. It doesn't matter about being top of the charts, it only matters about having more market share.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
a great way of doing it. And we haven't even talked about repurposing. You know, you'll see video clips of this that are taking a tiny little part of it from a bigger conversation, and that content can go on for days and weeks and months. It's just a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, and I think there's just so much like creative freedom. Like you said, you can literally talk about anything that's kind of relevant to your business or company. You know, maybe it's not even that relevant, and that might attract people even more because it's something you don't usually talk about. So I think there's so many opportunities with podcasts, and it just kind of shows a bit more about your brand personality, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It shows the faces behind your brand, and I think that's really, really important.
Really important. And don't be shy. You know, like if someone walked into the office, or like as part of your job, you would happily talk to people all day long about what you do, about your products and services. So just do that, but record it.
Yeah,
is a great way to look at it. Look, I have a podcast, right? And I said I started podcasting in 2013. I changed it a few times, but then the podcast that I have that I do use now and again, I think I'm on like episode 135 or thereabouts.
Wow.
But I know that when I put an episode out, I'll have about 1,000 people listen to it in the first 2 weeks. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they are. Well, I do know where they're, countries and stuff, but that's fascinating. And I know that it's taken a while to get to that stage, but that's still 1,000 people that are tuning in to listen. You know what I mean? So start now, start small. You're just looking to get more market share, that's it.
100%. I think they're really, really great points to cover there on podcasts.
Next thing?
So, next topic is launching new products and services. So, we recently did a Q&A on our Tide Instagram story.
Yes.
And we had someone come back to us and say, oh, you know, how often should I be posting if I'm launching a new product or service? So I thought it'd be great to kind of go into more depth about that and kind of, the best way to go about it. So I guess from my perspective, 100% if you're launching a new product, you need to be promoting that. You know, there's no point keeping it low key. You need to shout about it.
The world's best kept secret.
Exactly. But my suggestion is to actually use a variety of different media tools. So don't just be posting the same kind of post across all your channels. You know, use videos, do stories, do a podcast. You know, there's so many different tools you can use to really promote it on social media. But also don't forget about the other tools, email marketing, paid ads. There's so much more that you can incorporate it to really make, this strategy kind of blow. So I think it's just so important to kind of keep that in mind, that it doesn't just have to be a photo of a product or a photo about the service you're promoting. It can be so much more than that.
You can have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to model the best in the world. And the best of the world at this sort of thing would probably be either concert ticket releases for like the big artists, new movies, or new TV series about to begin, a really popular one. You think about like Game of Thrones, the last series, the build up to that, the little spoilers and trailers and the memes and the posts and the interviews and all the hype, right?
Yeah.
Look at all the different types of content. It's not just a poster that says new series starts here. Okay, it's a huge operation. It's a build up, and then it's a reveal, it's a release. Come and get it. Now, you're talking a lot there about the stuff that can be great for the initial brand awareness and the product and service awareness. That's then what I can add to that, because it's fantastic advice, is making sure that you direct it to one central place. So that could be some kind of opt-in to know about what's coming, to be the first to know, an early interest list. It could be a pre-order, but it has to be somewhere that can be managed all at once, so that all that effort that you're putting in hones in on one thing. With concert tickets, it's like 10 a.m. that day, you can buy them. Get in the queue, good luck. TV, it's like it comes out this day, this time. Cinema, tickets released this day, this time, premiere, all that. So yes, awareness, top of funnel, all the way down to a single point, and then once you've got people here in the single point, waiting, release whatever it is that they can buy, however it is that you want them to do a transaction with you, time or money, and go for it. If you want to make it super good and super effective, have a deadline on that too. We'll go into a lot more detail, but this is stuff that we do all of the time. But don't just put a post out and think, right, I've done it now.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes more than that. It takes a lot more than that. You have to feel uncomfortable at the amount of content you're making. You have to think, they're going to think I'm just going on about this again. If you're not thinking like that already, then you've not done enough.
No.
And when you do start thinking like that, do twice as much.
Exactly. No, really good advice there. I think that's what's nice, is kind of doing these podcasts, me and Tommy have different perspectives.
Definitely,
and kind of bring that together, because naturally I'm thinking more social, you're kind of thinking about the bigger picture.
But I wouldn't say it was bigger picture. I think that's unfair to say, because I think what you're doing is as big as what I'm doing. It's just different.
Yeah.
And it all fits in to the bigger picture for the client. Just different parts of it.
Yeah. So I think we've had some really good conversations today, speaking about loads of different topics, and they kind of all link together a little bit in terms of video content and stuff like that. So I think it's really been a really good kind of chat. Have you got any more thoughts before we end it?
Yeah, only to make sure that if you're not already subscribed to our email list, that you get subscribed to our email list. How beneficial would it be for you to know about these things in your inbox, quick, easy, straight to the point, so that you can then know what social media trends are happening, what strategies are working right now, because we're seeing it day in, day out, all of the time. If you think that would be of interest, then follow the instructions around this video, subscribe to the email list, and we'll send you our newsletter and our updates when we've got something to say.
Amazing. I think that's a great roundup. So thank you all for listening to our Tide Talks podcast, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.